If I raise this glass tonight, it won't be to you, Nathan. It'll be the moment I chose to outlive your plan. That sentence came before the candles, before the thin singing from my neighbors, before the August heat slid off the Boston twilight and left the kitchen smelling of lemon oil and paper. 70 sits well on a widower. I'd earned my quiet. I'd also earned the right to distrust anything wrapped too carefully. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Nathan arrived with the careful kind. A boutique bag, cream paper, a ribbon you could floss a violin with. "Happy birthday, Uncle Will," he said, his smile a polished coin. "Exclusive bottle. Friend's private collection. Enjoy it," but he squeezed my shoulder. "Don't rush." "Since when do I rush?" I asked. He laughed too quickly, like a man afraid the joke might testify against him. When the neighbors left, I stood alone with the bottle. Heavy glass. Old gold liquid that moved like sunlight through church windows. The label was in French, selling a story as much as liquor. A wax seal kissing the cork. I turned it in my palm and saw my reflection warped across the glass. A tired lawyer. A kitchen clock ticking. Jane's photo by the stove. Don't rush. It stuck like a fishbone. In court, words like that carry teeth. Don't rush the witness. Don't rush, because haste makes things obvious. I poured a finger into the good crystal I keep for verdicts and funerals. The scent rose clean and honeyed, with a dark note shaking its head no. Oak, dried fruit, and something that didn't belong at a birthday. The refrigerator hummed a low objection. Outside, crickets sawed the night. I set the glass down. Let the liquid settle. I am not superstitious. I'm a man of paper. In my study are ledgers of neighbors I helped, Alex's report cards, and, somewhere, the ledger of all the times I bailed Nathan out. He was a bright boy who grew into a bright flame. Flames burn. They also draw moths. I know the temptation of easy things. I spent a career cross-examining them. Nathan's ribbon generosity felt easy. He'd been traveling Europe with someone connected, he'd said. A friend with cellar and a yacht and no last name. He texted me stories all July. Tasting rooms, private rooms. The clock ticked. 11. I lifted the glass again. My thumb pressed a cool cut pattern. I looked at Jane's picture and said, "To your patience, my love." That's when my phone buzzed on the counter, a moth of light in the dark. The buzz rattled against the marble like a wasp trapped in a jar. Alex, 13, a good kid. His first line froze my arm halfway in my mouth. "Don't drink the bottle." I frowned, thumb hovering. Another message arrived like a gavel. "Please don't." I saw Dad put something in it before he wrapped it. The cut crystal kissed my teeth. The house went silent, as if the walls were listening. And with the glass still halfway to my lips, I finally heard what that dark note had been trying to tell me. I set the glass down so hard it rang like a bell. The liquid trembled, a tiny storm swirling in amber. My pulse thumped against my throat, loud, irregular, as if my own body wanted to testify before I could. Alex's words blinked back at me from the phone screen. 13 years old, and already carrying the weight of knowing too much about his father. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't find words short enough, strong enough, to fit into a text bubble. Finally I typed, "Are you sure?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then his reply. I saw it. He poured something from a vial. He thought I wasn't watching. "Please don't drink it, Uncle Will. Promise me." I promised. But I didn't send it. Not yet. Instead, I stared at the bottle, at the wax seal, at the label printed for men who mistake cost for class. Nathan had played bowl before late-night calls, begging for another loan, his voice sweat-slick with casino background noise. But this? Poison? That was another courtroom entirely. The lawyer in me rose up, methodical. Step 1, verify. Emotion is a witness, but it lies. Evidence, that's where truth hides. I capped the bottle, wrapped it in a grocery bag, and slid it under my arm. The night air smelled of cut grass and car exhaust. A dog barked 3 streets over. Every sound sharpened itself against me. At the ER, The young receptionist blinked at the sight of a 70-year-old man carrying expensive liquor like contraband. "Sir, are you hurt?" "Not yet," I said. "I need toxicology." Quietly, her brows knit, but my voice carried the weight of decades in courtrooms, of depositions where truth had to be dragged out kicking. She nodded, made a call. By midnight, a lab tech in blue scrubs took the bottle with latex-gloved hands. "May take a few hours," he warned. "I'll wait." And I did. On a plastic chair under buzzing lights, I waited with Jane's photo glowing on my phone screen. I thought about Alex, alone in that house, knowing his father's hands weren't just careless, but deadly. I thought about my sister Jane, gone these 10 years, who had trusted me to guide her boy. What would she say now? At 3 in the morning, the lab tech returned. His expression did the talking. "There's anticoagulant in there. High concentration. Enough to cause internal bleeding, strokes, clotting disasters. Slow but certain." I nodded, though inside something broke clean through. Proof. Cold, clinical, undeniable. My blood roared in my ears, a tide rushing in. Back home, Dawn found me staring at the bottle, now locked in my desk drawer. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of quiet that usually feels like safety. Today it felt like a verdict. Nathan had crossed a line. He hadn't just gambled with my money, he'd gambled with my life. And worse, he'd left his son to carry the secret. The sun rose, slicing gold across Jane's photo frame. My hand trembled, not with fear, but with decision. I whispered to her picture, "He thinks I'm already dead. Let's see how he handles the living." That's when the doorbell rang, shattering the morning calm. And on the porch stood Nathan, smiling wide, as if nothing had happened. The smile on Nathan's face was too bright for a man who had tried to hand me death in a bottle. His grin stretched across the porch like a banner covering rot. He carried a paper bag with fresh bagels, the sort of piece offering a guilty man imagines will smooth everything over. "Morning, Uncle Will." His voice carried that rehearsed cheerfulness, the one I'd heard too often after his gambling nights. "I thought we could have breakfast. Celebrate properly, you know." I let him in. My years as a lawyer taught me this. Sometimes you let the liar talk, let him believe he's in control, while you build a case brick by brick. In the kitchen, sunlight poured across the counter where, just hours earlier, I'd nearly swallowed poison. The clean crystal glass still sat there, a silent witness. Nathan didn't glance at it. He unpacked bagels, cream cheese, his hands just a little too quick, his eyes a little too restless. "So, did you try the cognac?" he asked casually, buttering a knife. The tone was careless, but his glance flicked at me like a hawk's. "No," I said simply. I watched his face. A shadow crossed it, but he covered fast with a laugh. "You and your patience, always savoring things. Well, when you do, it'll knock your socks off." I let the silence stretch. He shifted in his chair. The butter knife scraped harshly against porcelain. I thought of Alex, my good boy, who'd seen too much. Did Nathan know his son had betrayed his secret? Did he care? We ate, or rather, I moved food around my plate while Nathan devoured his, as if the act of chewing could drown out guilt. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A new message from Alex. "Is he there?" I slipped the phone back silently. Yes, he was here, and he was lying to my face. "Nate," I said finally, leaning back, letting my voice grow heavy. "Do you remember June? That argument we had about the will?" He froze for half a second. "Sure," we both said things. "You said you needed more. That what I'd planned for Alex was enough. That your debts—" "Everyone has debts, Uncle Will. It's part of life." His tone sharpened, defensive. "And you got more money than you need. You're alone." I stared at him. Alone doesn't mean expendable. His jaw worked. For a moment I saw the boy I once knew, eyes stubborn, fists clenched against life's unfairness. But this man had chosen shortcuts. He'd chosen poison over honesty. When he left, bagel crumbs on the table and a hollow promise to see me soon, I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart hammered with the truth. He was watching, waiting, confident the bottle would do the work. He didn't have the stomach to finish himself. I opened my desk drawer. The poison bottle gleamed like a viper coiled in glass. Alongside it now lay the lab report, black letters on white, the final word of science. Proof. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about justice. About Alex. About Jane's memory. I picked up my phone and dialed an old colleague, an attorney I trusted. "I need to make changes," I said. My voice was steel, and I need them airtight. As I hung up, the clock struck noon, each chime like a drumbeat of resolve. By the time Nathan tried again, he wouldn't be meeting the uncle he thought he could manipulate. He'd be meeting the man who had built his life on cross-examinations and was ready to deliver the final verdict. And at that moment, standing alone in my quiet house, I decided Nathan's day in court was coming. The office smelled of paper and polished wood, the kind of place where promises are written in ink thick enough to last beyond men's lives. My attorney, Charles, had been my colleague for 30 years. He knew my rhythms, my patience, and the sharp edge I reserve for adversaries. "You're certain, Will?" he asked, sliding his glasses down his nose as I placed a lab report in front of him. The words "anticoagulant detected" seemed to pulse against a mahogany desk. "As certain as a man who almost drank his own death," I said. My voice was steady, but I felt Jane's absence like a hand pressing against my chest. "The will changes today. Everything goes to Alex. A trust fund, locked down, ironclad. Nathan and his wife don't see a cent." Charles studied me. "You understand the storm this will bring?" "I've lived through storms. This one needs a break." He nodded, and we began. The paperwork spread across the desk, neat lines dividing the world into before and after. As I signed, I thought of Alex's small hands on a baseball bat last summer, the boy's laughter when he finally connected with the ball. That boy deserved safety. He deserved a future untainted by his father's greed. When the pen left the page for the last time, I felt something settle inside me. A door closed. The past generosity I had poured into Nathan, tuition, rent, bailouts, was now ledgered as a lesson, not a debt. Leaving the office, the Boston streets felt different, crisper. Every brick seemed to echo my resolve. I carried copies of the new trust like a shield. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the poison bottle gleaming faintly from a drawer. I pulled out the old ledgers, the bank records, the checks with Nathan's name inked in my hand. Over $220,000, all told. Education, housing, second chances. Each entry was a scar on paper. I stacked them neatly, ready for the day he would face them. But I needed more than documents. I needed a strategy. Nathan would not confess easily. Arrogance rarely bends until it snaps. I thought of the courtroom tactics I once used. Build tension, trap the witness, present evidence piece by piece until denial crumbles under its own weight. I poured myself a glass, not that cursed cognac, but of plain water, and raised it toward Jane's photograph. "We'll do this right. He'll see what truth tastes like." The phone buzzed. Alex again. "Did you change the will?" I typed back, "Yes, you're safe now." His reply came fast. "Thank you. Dad's been angry lately. He thinks something's wrong. Please be careful." Angry. The word cut deeper than I let Alex know. It meant Nathan sensed a shift, a tremor in his carefully stacked lies. And when a desperate man feels control slipping, he becomes reckless. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the night hum beyond the window. My house no longer felt like refuge. It felt like a battleground waiting for the first shot. I knew what had to come next. If Nathan thought the poison gift would do his work, I would let him taste the trap himself. The bottle would remain my weapon, and the stage, I was already planning where the curtain would rise. But first, I had to lure him closer, let him believe the noose was still hidden. I whispered to the dark, "Patience, Will. Patience. The hunter doesn't rush." And then, as if on cue, my phone lit again. This time, not Alex. Nathan. A single line. "We should talk. Tomorrow." The hunt was beginning. Nathan chose a downtown cafe for our talk. Public space, casual chatter, witnesses to civility. Perfect cover for a man who believed masks work better under bright light. I arrived early, my old leather briefcase beside me. not with contract or motions, but with silent artillery. Copies of the toxicology report, the ledger of his debts, and the new trust documents naming Alex as sole heir. I didn't intend to show them yet, but just knowing they were there steadied my hand. He swept in 10 minutes late, as always, wearing a jacket that cost more than a month's rent and a smile worth less than a dime. He hugged me as if cameras were flashing. "Uncle Will," he boomed, too loud for a morning crowd. Looking sharp for 70, I let him sit first, a subtle courtroom trick. He'd fidget while I stayed anchored. "So," I said, when the waitress had taken our orders, "what was so urgent?" His eyes flicked, calculating. "You've been distant. I wanted to check in, make sure we're good." I held his gaze. "We're not." That word hit him harder than I expected. His fingers tightened around the menu, knuckles whitening. He leaned in. "If this is about the will again." "It's about trust," I interrupted. His jaw clenched. "And yours is gone." The waitress returned with coffee. He pasted on a smile until she left, then hissed, "What do you mean?" I wanted to slam the report on the table, let the crowd hear every word, but timing matters. You don't spend years in court without learning to savor silence. Instead, I leaned back, calm. "You've made choices, Nate. Gambling, debt, lies. I've covered for you more times than I can count. But lately, something darker." His eyes narrowed. He sipped his coffee, hiding behind steam. "You don't know what you're talking about." But his hand trembled, just slightly. I saw it, and I knew. "Maybe I don't," I said smoothly. "But if I did, you want to tell me before someone else finds out." For a flicker of a second, panic flared. Then the mask snapped back on. "You've always been dramatic, Uncle. Relax. Life's too short." Too short. The words curdled in my gut. He wanted my life shortened, methodical, invisible, wrapped as a gift. I stirred my coffee slowly, letting the spoon ring against the cup like a bell of judgment. "You're right about one thing, Nathan. Life is short, and one mistake can end it." He stared at me, the smile faltering, unsure whether I meant his mistake or mine. I left him that uncertainty, paid the bill, and rose. As I walked out, my briefcase heavy at my side, I felt his eyes burning into my back. He knew I suspected. He didn't know how much I held in my hand. Already, the city air hit my face sharp and cool. I exhaled, the taste of strategy in my mouth. But when I reached home, a chill greater than the morning breeze awaited. On my porch sat a small package. No note, no sender. Just my name written in hurried ink. I carried it inside, laid it on the kitchen table, and opened it carefully. Inside was a single object. The same brand of vial the lab described, half empty, still reeking faintly of chemicals. And beneath it, a folded scrap of paper. This isn't over. My hand tightened around the vial, glass cold as betrayal. Nathan had just declared war. I held the vial up to the light. Clear liquid sloshed against glass, catching the morning sun like a false jewel. It smelled faintly metallic, clinical, death pretending to be medicine. My hand didn't shake, but my chest tightened, remembering the nearly poured glass, Alex's trembling text, Jane's absent voice in my ear. The scrap of paper lay on the table, cheap lines of ink spelling out arrogance. This isn't over. Of course it wasn't. Nathan was a gambler. Gamblers double down when they lose. He thought intimidation would fold me. He'd forgotten I built a career tearing liars apart in courtrooms, one misplaced syllable at a time. I slipped the vial into a small evidence bag I'd kept from old case files. My instincts, honed from years in law, whispered, "Catalog, preserve, never touch raw." I logged the date, the time, even the weather outside. Old habits don't die. They sharpen when needed. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery where Jane rested. The place was quiet, a breeze rattling through oak leaves. I stood at her stone, the vial in my pocket, and spoke aloud like I had in closing arguments. "He's crossed the line, Jane. I changed the will. Alex will be safe. But Nathan won't stop unless I end this clean. You knew me best. You know I'm not cruel. But I won't let your boy grow up in his father's shadow of greed. The wind answered with a hush, like the jury leaning closer. That night, I began building the case in earnest. My dining table became a courtroom. On the left, Nathan's debts, bank records, IOUs scrawled in his hand. On the right, copies of checks I had written, tuition statements, proof of the $220,000 I'd poured into him since Jane's death. In the center, the toxicology report and the vial. And beside it all, the gleaming cognac bottle, still sealed like a snake in glass. I rehearsed the confrontation in my head. Timing, pacing, evidence revealed step by step, until denial collapsed under its own weight. It wasn't enough to accuse. He had to see himself cornered. He had to crumble in the open. Still, there was a knot in me. I thought of Alex again, 13, carrying the secret like a stone. What would the boy think of his father when truth spilled? Would he hate him, or worse, excuse him? Children have dangerous loyalties. Near midnight, as I spread documents like puzzle pieces, my phone buzzed. Alex. His words blinked on the screen. He's been watching you. He says you're hiding something. Please, Uncle will... Be careful. The boy knew too much, and Nathan's paranoia was growing teeth. I wrote back, I'm fine. Trust me. Trust. The word lingered after I sent it. Trust is a bridge, fragile until tested. Nathan had burned his bridge to ash. But Alex still stood on mine, waiting. I gathered the documents into neat stacks, slid them into my briefcase, and closed it with a final click. Tomorrow, I'd call Nathan myself. The trap needed bait, and the bait had to gleam with promise. The bottle would be the lure. The stage would be my house, familiar, disarming, the place he thought he knew. I shut off the lights, the house sinking into silence. My hand brushed Jane's photo as I passed, her smile steady, her eyes unyielding. Tomorrow, I whispered, the trial begins. But as I climbed the stairs, a sound cut through the dark, tires crunching on gravel, too close, too slow. I stopped by the window, a car idle at the curb, headlights off, and in the glow of the dashboard, I saw him, Nathan, watching my house, the engine idle low, a predator's purr. Through the curtain slit, I saw Nathan's silhouette behind the wheel, still as stone, eyes fixed on my house. A cigarette ember glowed, flared, died. He wasn't here to talk. He was measuring, watching. I stayed in shadow, heart steady. This was confirmation, not surprise. A man who sends poison and threats doesn't rest easy until he sees the coffin closed. He wanted certainty, and I would give him certainty, just not the kind he craved. Minutes stretched. Finally, his car crept forward, taillights fading into the Boston night. I let the darkness settle again before moving. Every instinct from the courtroom whispered caution. Never confront too soon. Never give the witness time to rewrite his lie. I slept little. Dawn cracked open the sky, painting my kitchen in pale gray. I brewed coffee strong enough to taste like resolve, then set the stage. The cognac bottle, polished, prominent, sat on the table like bait, 2 crystal glasses beside it. My briefcase leaned innocently against the chair. Every piece had its place. By 9, I dialed Nathan. My voice carried calm steel. Come by tonight. We'll drink that bottle together. No excuses. A pause. Faint static over the line. Then his too bright chuckle. About time. Sure, Uncle will. Tonight. When the call ended, I exhaled slowly. The die was cast. Tonight, the mask would crack. The day crawled, each hour deliberate. I walked the neighborhood, greeted familiar faces, all while rehearsing in my head the order of evidence. Debts, generosity, poison, betrayal. Each step a drumbeat, each breath a countdown. By dusk, my home was theater. Curtains half drawn, lights low, the air humming with expectation. I laid Jane's photo on the mantel, her quiet witness to what was about to unfold. The bottle gleamed amber under lamplight, innocent to the untrained eye. At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. Nathan arrived in cologne thick enough to mask nerves, his smile stretched taut. Ready to celebrate properly? I welcomed him in. He scanned the room, eyes darting to the bottle, the glasses. His hunger was palpable. "Sit," I said, pouring amber liquid into crystal. Only I knew. His glass filled with the safe replacement I'd bought. The poison one remained sealed, tucked away like a loaded gun. He raised his glass. "To family," he said. I raised mine. "To truth." The clink rang sharp as a gavel. We drank. His throat bobbed. He smacked his lips, nodding in false approval. "Smooth, isn't it?" I set my glass down with care. Then I reached into my briefcase and slid the first stack of documents across the table. Bank records, debts, the mountain of red ink he drowned himself in. His smile wavered. "What is this?" "Your life, Nathan, written in numbers." He laughed hollow. "You've been digging." I leaned forward, eyes unblinking. "No, Nathan, I've been watching." His hands twitched near the glass. The mask slipped just slightly, and I caught the flicker of fear. I pulled out the second stack. Checks, tuition, proof of the $220,000 I'd poured into him since Jane's death. "This is what I gave you. A lifeline. And this," I tapped the debt records, "is what you gave back." Silence. His face tightened, the smirk curdling into something darker. And then, slowly, I set the toxicology report on top, the black letters stark as a verdict. Anticoagulant detected. Nathan's glass froze halfway to his lips. His eyes locked on the paper. "You were saying," I murmured, "how smooth it is." The color drained from his face. He looked at me, truly looked, and for the first time I saw panic strip him bare. And in that silence, heavy as a closing argument, the truth was poised to break him. Nathan's hand trembled, the crystal glass hovering between table and lips. A bead of cognac quivered at the rim, ready to spill. His eyes darted from the toxicology report to me, then back again, like a cornered defendant searching for a sympathetic juror. He found none. "What does this supposed to prove?" he muttered, voice cracking at the edges. "It proves you chose murder over honesty," I said evenly. "It proves you laced a gift with death and sent to me with a bow. And it proves you underestimated me." He forced a laugh, brittle as glass underfoot. "You've lost it, Uncle Will. That report could be anything." I cut him off, sliding the vial across the table. The glass cylinder rolled until it stopped against his hand. "Recognize this? Left on my porch. Your handwriting. Your arrogance." His face drained of color. His mouth opened, then shut, a fish stranded on shore. "You were a child once," I continued, voice low, steady, relentless. "Your mother trusted me to guide you. I paid your tuition, your rent, your debts. Over $200,000. I gave you chance after chance. And how do you repay me? With poison, with betrayal." His mask fractured. Anger surged in his eyes, replacing panic. "You don't understand, Will. I had no choice. The debts, they're going to bury me. I needed the money now, not when you're ready to die." The confession slipped out raw, unpolished. He clapped a hand over his mouth too late. I leaned back, studying him as I once studied guilty men on the stand. "Say it louder. Do you hear yourself? You're not just drowning. You're dragging your own son under with you." His chair scraped against the floor as he lurched forward, face twisted. "Don't you dare talk about Alex. He's my son." "He's Jane's grandson." I shot back, slamming my palm on the table. The sound cracked through the room like a gavel. "And I'll be damned before I let you poison his future the way you try to poison me." Nathan flinched. The room hung silent, except for the faint tick of the clock on the wall. His gaze flicked to the bottle, the glass, the papers, pieces of a puzzle he could no longer control. "You think you won?" he spat, voice trembling. "You think one piece of paper changes everything? You'll regret this." I smiled, cold as Winterstone. "Regret belongs to you, Nathan. You already drank the first sip of it tonight." His eyes widened, darting to the glass in his hand. For a heartbeat, he believed it. His knuckles whitened around the stem, his breathing ragged. Then realization crept in. He was still alive, still unhurt. Confusion layered over fear. I leaned in, my voice a whisper sharp enough to cut. "That's how easy it is. That's how close you came to your own medicine. Think about that every time you raise a glass." He shoved the chair back, standing, his face mottled with fury. "This isn't over, old man. You can't ruin me." I stood too, slower, taller. My shadow stretched across him, heavy with years of authority. "You already ruined yourself. And tomorrow, everyone will know it." For the first time, his bravado cracked in public view. His lip trembled, his eyes shone with a thin sheen of panic. And as he stormed out, slamming the door so hard the photo frames rattled, I felt something I hadn't in years: satisfaction. The trial wasn't finished. But tonight, Nathan had made his first admission. Tomorrow, I would make sure he gave it to me in front of the world. The night after Nathan stormed out, silence pressed against my house like a jury waiting for deliberation. I sat in the kitchen, the empty glass still trembling faintly where his hand had left it, his fingerprints oily ghosts on the crystal. The toxicology report, the vial, the ledgers, all lay spread across the table like exhibits in a trial paused mid-session. But I knew private confrontation wasn't enough. Men like Nathan wriggle out of tight corners if no one else is watching. He needed to be undone in the open, where excuses shrivel under the light of witnesses. I thought of the town hall meeting scheduled that week, a gathering for local issues where familiar faces filled the old brick auditorium. Nathan often flaunted his connections there, bragging about his investments, his travels, the life he pretended was built on skill instead of rot. A public arena, a stage. The plan began forming. 3 acts, just like in court. First, bait him into arrogance. Then, expose the truth step by step. Finally, deliver the blow he couldn't refute. But I also knew he was dangerous now. Cornered animals lash hardest. And Nathan wasn't just reckless. He was desperate. The phone buzzed again. Alex. "Dad's furious. He's been yelling, throwing things. I don't know what to do." I typed back, "Stay calm. Stay out of his way. I'm handling this." My thumb hovered before I added, "Trust me." Trust. That word again. A fragile bridge. And Alex was still standing on it, waiting for me not to let him fall. The following evening, I put on my best suit. Not the black one for funerals. Not the tweed for lectures. My courtroom navy. It still fit, though the years had softened the shoulders. I straightened the tie in the mirror, Jane's photo watching from the dresser. Tonight, I told her softly, he won't just face me, he'll face everyone. The hall smelled of old varnish and dust. The chatter of neighbors filled the air, rising and falling in waves. Nathan was already there, laughing too loudly, his arm draped over the back of a chair, a picture of casual confidence. His wife sat stiff beside him, eyes tired, lips tight. Alex hovered nearby, shoulders hunched, avoiding his father's gaze. When I entered, Nathan's laugh faltered for half a beat before returning, louder than before. "Uncle Will, here to keep us honest." Something like that. I said, my voice carrying farther than his. Heads turned. A hush followed. I walked to the front, my briefcase tapping against my leg like a drum roll. Papers rustled inside, proof prepared like holy writ. I set it on the table. The sound sharp in the quiet hall. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my tone steady. "We're here for community matters. And what's more a matter of community than truth?" Murmurs stirred. Nathan shifted in his seat, his smile frozen in place. "Some of us," I continued, locking eyes with him, "have built reputations on lies, gambling, debt, betrayal of family, and worse." A ripple of gasps. Nathan shot to his feet. "What the hell are you doing?" I ignored him, sliding the first document from my briefcase and holding it high. "Here are the debts. $70,000 owed to casinos, to faceless creditors. Here are the loans he begged for, the money poured into a bottomless pit." Voices rose in the crowd, whispering, judging. His wife covered her mouth with her hand. Alex stared at the floor. Nathan's face flushed crimson. "You can't prove." I laid down the second stack. Copies of checks, tuition bills, receipts with my signature. And here is what I gave him. $220,000 over the years. A lifeline squandered. The hall buzzed louder, the tide turning. Eyes bore into him. His smirk was gone, replaced by a twitch in his jaw. a tremor in his hand. I pause, letting the silence grow heavy, before reaching for final piece, the lab report. My fingers brushed it, feeling its weight like a gavel before a verdict. And as I lifted it into the light, the hall's breath seemed to hold. Nathan whispered, just loud enough for me to hear, "Don't you dare." I looked him in the eye and said, "This is only the beginning." The paper felt heavier than its weight, as if every black letter on it carried the gravity of a verdict. I held it up for the room to see, the crowd leaning forward, whispers sharpening into knives. Nathan's eyes followed it, wide, fevered, knowing exactly what was before I spoke a word. "This," I said, my voice cutting clean to the hall, "is a toxicology report. For a bottle of cognac, gifted to me on my 70th birthday. A bottle that contained a lethal anticoagulant, designed to bleed a man out from the inside, slowly, while making his death look like nature's cruel hand." Gasps scattered like birds taking flight. Faces turned to Nathan. His wife's hand slid from her mouth to her lap, shaking. Alex, pale, stared at me with eyes begging both for truth and for mercy. Nathan lunged forward, his voice breaking. "He's lying. He's senile. You all know Uncle Will's been slipping. He's paranoid." I didn't flinch. Instead, I laid the vial on the table, its glass catching the harsh fluorescent lights. The room fell to a hush so thick you could hear the clock tick on the back wall. This was left on my porch, a half-empty vial of the same substance found in that bottle, with a note, "This isn't over." I turned my gaze back to Nathan, calm, relentless. "Would you like to explain, Nathan? Or should I?" His face flushed a violent red. He opened his mouth, but the crowd's murmurs drowned him out. I pressed on, voice steady, deliberate. "You all know me. Decades in this town. I've practiced law with some of you, defended others, buried friends, buried family. I have no reason to invent this. But Nathan," I let the words drag, heavy as a chain, "he has motive, debt, $70,000 lost to casinos and crypto, desperation enough to kill his own blood." Nathan slammed his fist on the chair. "You sanctimonious bastard." His voice cracked into a shriek. "You think you're better than me? You think you can take everything and leave me nothing?" There was the mask torn away, raw confession spilling into the open. Gasps rose, some from recognition, some from horror. A neighbor whispered, "My God, he admitted it." I stood taller, letting silence carve the rest. The hall had turned tribunal, and Nathan stood before it, stripped of dignity. His eyes darted, frantic, searching for one sympathetic face. He found none. "Look at him," I said softly, not to Nathan but to the room. "A man willing to poison family for money he never earned. A man who confuses inheritance with entitlement. This is what greed does." Nathan's chair clattered as he shoved it aside and stormed toward the exit, his steps stumbling, shoulders hunched beneath the weight of every eye on him. His wife followed slowly, not touching him. Alex didn't move at all. He sat rooted, staring at the floor, as if the ground had swallowed his father whole. I gathered the papers calmly, slid them back into my briefcase, and turned to the crowd. "The matter is not finished," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "But tonight you saw the truth." And with that, I closed the briefcase. The snap of its clasp echoed like a gavel in the hall. When I stepped outside, the night air felt lighter, cleaner. Yet under that calm was an unease. I had humiliated him, stripped him in front of his neighbors. But humiliation, I knew too well, often breeds rage sharper than shame. As I walked to my car, headlights suddenly flared on across the street, blinding white against the dark. An engine roared, and the car began to roll slowly toward me. The headlights burned into my eyes, bleaching the world into white. Instinct pulled me sideways, back toward the curb. The car surged forward, tires grinding against asphalt, the growl of its engine vibrating through my ribs. For a breath I saw nothing but glare, then a flash of the driver's face. "Nathan," I twisted, heart pounding, as the car swerved close enough that its mirror clipped the edge of my coat. Wind slapped me against a brick wall. Then, with a screech of rubber, it tore down the street, vanishing into the night. Silence followed, heavy, broken only by my ragged breath. My hands trembled, Not from fear, but from fury. He'd escalated. Public humiliation had cut deeper than I expected. Now he wanted me silenced, not by poison, but by blunt force and darkness. I straightened, brushing brick dust from my sleeve. Around me, the town hall crowd was spilling into the night, chatter sharp with shock. A few had seen the car's reckless retreat. Whispers began, questions piling. Good. Witnesses were multiplying. But Nathan wasn't finished, and neither was I. I drove home with my briefcase beside me, its weight a steady reminder. Inside lay every weapon I needed. Debts, ledgers, lab results, the vial. Truth sharp enough to slice through any denial. Yet truth alone wasn't enough. Tonight showed me that. Nathan wasn't just desperate. He was cornered. And a cornered gambler pushes the stakes higher until he loses everything. At home, I locked the doors, checked the windows, and laid the cognac bottle on the kitchen table. Its amber heart glowed under the lamp. Innocent to anyone else, venomous to me. I poured a finger into the glass, lifted it, and studied the swirl. A perfect lure. Jane's photo watched from the mantel. I raised the glass toward her. He thinks fear will break me. I whispered. But fear is his currency, and I don't pay in counterfeit. I set the glass down untouched. The next morning, a knock rattled my door. When I opened it, Alex stood there, pale, shoulders hunched, his school backpack hanging loose. His eyes darted past me, searching the shadows of the house. "Uncle Will," he whispered, voice frayed. "He's losing it. He smashed a chair last night. Said you're trying to ruin him. Said he'd rather burn everything than let you win." The boy's lips quivered. He was 13, too young to carry the fear of being collateral in his father's downfall. I rested a hand on his shoulder, firm, steady. "You're safe with me. Remember that. I'll protect you." He nodded, but his eyes held doubt, the kind only a child raised in chaos learns. As he left for school, I watched him go, the knot in my chest tightening. Nathan was unraveling, and when men like him unravel, they drag down whatever's closest. By afternoon, I knew what had to come. The final act was near. I called Nathan, voice steady, deliberate. "Tonight, my house. We finish this. No more shadows." He laughed on the line, brittle, mocking. "Finish? Uncle Will, you don't want to play my kind of endgame." "On the contrary," I said, "I've been playing it longer than you've been alive." I hung up before he could answer. Evening fell heavy, the air thick with the weight of what was coming. I set the stage once more. The bottle polished, glasses ready, documents stacked like blades. And this time, Jane's photo stood directly on the table, watching. At 7, the knock came, louder than usual, impatient. I opened the door, and Nathan stood there, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight, hands trembling not from fear but from rage. He stepped inside without waiting. "You want an ending?" he snarled. "Then let's end it." And I closed the door behind him, locking it with a click that sounded exactly like a cell door slamming shut. Nathan paced my kitchen like a caged animal, his eyes darting from the bottle on the table to the document stacked beside it. His fingers twitched restless, as though every nerve in his body wanted to lash out. "You think you've beaten me," he spat, circling the table, dragging my name through the mud in front of everyone, waving papers like some courtroom trick. "You humiliated me." I stood still, steady, the way I had before juries for decades. "No, Nathan, you humiliated yourself." I only held up the mirror. His laugh was sharp, cracked. "You don't get it, old man. None of this matters. Debts, reports, wills. I can fix all that. But if you keep pushing, I'll—" He stopped short, catching himself, but the threat hung in the air, heavy as smoke. I gestured the chair opposite me. "Sit. For once in your life, face the evidence like a man." Reluctantly, he dropped into the chair, though his leg bounced under the table. I slid the first stack toward him. His debts, thick as a phone book, $70,000. Gambling, crypto, quick fixes that never fixed anything. "This is your empire." He shoved the papers back. "Everyone owes someone." I laid down the second stack. Checks, tuition bills, housing expenses. $220,000. That's what I gave you. Not everyone gets that. You squander not just money, but trust. His jaw tightened. His eyes glistened with something close to shame, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Finally, I placed the toxicology report in front of him. The black letters cut through the silence. And this, proof that you tried to kill me. His hands clenched into fists. You think anyone will believe that? They already do, I said softly. They saw you break in front of them. They heard your anger, your desperation. You admitted more than you realize. Nathan's face twisted, rage boiling over. He snatched the report, crumpling it in his fist. You won't take Alex from me, he shouted. The name struck me like a hammer. Alex deserves better than a father who poisons his own blood. His voice cracked, torn between fury and pleading. He's all I've got. You can't cut me out of everything, money, reputation, even my own son. You did that yourself, I said, steady as stone. He lurched to his feet, knocking the chair back, looming over me. His face was inches from mine, eyes wild. Maybe you think you've set the stage. Maybe you think you've won. But you're forgetting one thing. He snatched the cognac bottle from the table, holding it like a weapon, amber liquid sloshing inside. Truth is what people see, Uncle Will, and I can make them see whatever I want. He raised the bottle high, glass catching the lamplight like a blade. For the first time in years, I felt the raw heat of danger, immediate and unfiltered. My hand went to Jane's photo on the table, anchoring me. You lift that bottle against me, I said, voice low, unwavering, and you'll prove everything I've said tonight. For a heartbeat, the world held still, the bottle trembling above us, Nathan's breath ragged, the clock ticking in judgment. Then, with a roar, he slammed it down onto the table. Glass shuddered but did not break. Liquid splashed across the wood, running like spilled blood between us. And Nathan leaned in, eyes burning, whispering through clenched teeth, "If you think this is over, you don't know me at all." The cognac bled across the table in amber rivulets, dripping onto the floor like time running out. Nathan's face hovered inches from mine, his breath hot, his eyes lit with desperation's fire. For a moment I saw the boy he once was, the one Jane begged me to protect, but that boy was gone, swallowed whole by greed. I didn't flinch. I let the silence stretch, the way I used it with witnesses who'd cornered themselves. Silence is weight. Eventually it crushes. You've already lost, Nathan, I said finally. My voice was calm, steady. Look at you, raving, waving bottles like weapons. Do you think Alex will remember this as strength or as his father's collapse? The words pierced deeper than any threat. He staggered back, slamming the bottle down again, but softer this time, as if the fight drained out of his arms. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, smearing sweat across his face. You don't understand, he muttered, voice trembling. The debts, they'll kill me. They'll come for me if I don't pay. I had no choice. You had a choice the moment you poured that vial, I said. I tapped the evidence bag lying open on the table. You chose murder. His laugh came hollow, cracked. And what do you call this circus? Dragging me in front of neighbors. Waving papers? You think that makes you better than me? It makes me alive, I said sharply, and it makes Alex safe. Two things you nearly stole. At the mention of his son's name, his mask shattered. His voice dropped to a ragged whisper. He hates me now. I saw it in his eyes. You turned him against me. No, I answered. You did. The words landed like a verdict. He slumped into the chair, the bottle leaning against his leg. For the first time, he looked small. But small doesn't mean harmless. I'd seen enough corner men in my life to know, the moment you think they're broken, that's when they strike. And I was right. In a blur, Nathan shot to his feet, seized Jane's photograph from the table, and held it aloft. You want to play judge and jury? Then let's see what your precious Jane thinks of all this. My chest tightened. That photo, her smile framed in silver, her memory carried through every lonely year, was the last piece of her I held. Put it down, I said, my voice low, lethal. He grinned, cruel and wild. Or what? You'll disown me harder? You'll sign another paper? The photo trembled in his grip. dangerously close to slipping. My fists clenched at my sides. The air between us was knife-thin. "You break that," I said slowly, "and there's nothing left between us. No family, no forgiveness, nothing." For a heartbeat, I saw hesitation flicker in his eyes. But greed, rage, and fear, all the poisons had eaten him hollow, won out. He hurled the photo across the room. The frame shattered against the wall, glass scattering like shards of memory across the floor. And in that sound, the crack of finality, I felt something shift inside me. The last tie was gone. Nathan wasn't family anymore. I rose from my chair, taller than my 70 years should allow, and fixed my gaze on him. "You've just written your own ending," I said. And for the first time, I saw fear eclipse the fire in his eyes. Glass littered the floor like ice. Jane's smile broken into 100 reflections that cut deeper than any knife. Nathan stood over the wreckage, chest heaving, waiting for me to collapse under the weight of it. But I didn't. I straightened, every bone in my body carrying the gravity of 70 years, of courtrooms and funerals, of promises kept. "You think destroying her picture destroys her," I said, my voice a low rumble. "But all you've done is bury yourself." For the first time, Nathan's bravado faltered. His shoulders sagged. His eyes flicked toward the door as though measuring escape routes. Rage had carried him this far, but rage was a leaky vessel. It couldn't float forever. I reached down, gathered the shards carefully, and set the ruined frame on the table beside the poisoned bottle. A silent exhibit, proof of the last bond he'd severed. My fingers bled from a cut, but I didn't wince. The sting steadied me. "You want an ending?" I said, looking straight at him. "Here's how it ends. Tomorrow morning, I go to the police with this." I tapped the vial. "And this," I gestured to the toxicology report. "You'll face the justice system you thought you were too clever to fear." His eyes widened, panic slicing through. "You can't. If you drag me in, the creditors, they'll kill me. You don't know what these people do." "I know exactly what men like you do," I replied coldly. "You poison family for profit. You gamble your son's future away. You call that survival? I call it cowardice." He lunged across the table, seizing my wrist. His grip was iron, his breath hot. "Please," he rasped, and for the first time the words sounded real, not rehearsed. "Don't do this. You're all I have left." I pulled my arm free. "No, Nathan. Alex is all you had left, and you lost him long before tonight." The name struck him harder than any fist. He staggered back, eyes glistening, fury and grief warring inside him. For a heartbeat, I almost saw regret. But gamblers don't repent. They bluff until the final card drops. He grabbed the cognac bottle again, clutching it like a lifeline. "Then we end it my way. Right now." He yanked out the cork, the pop echoing like a gunshot. The sweet, fatal scent of liquor filled the air. He sloshed 2 glasses full, amber spilling over, staining the table. "You drink with me," he snarled, shoving 1 glass toward me. "If you're so sure, prove it. Prove it's poison. Or prove you're lying." I stared at the glass, its surface trembling with each of his shaky breaths. This was his final bluff. Drag me into the abyss with him. Slowly, deliberately, I pushed the glass back across the table. "I don't need to drink to prove the truth. You already did that when you tried to kill me." His face twisted, desperation breaking through. He raised his own glass, tilting it toward his lips, madness flashing in his eyes. And just then, the front door creaked open. We both froze. Alex stood in the doorway, school bag hanging from his shoulder, eyes wide at the scene before him. The shattered photo, the spilled liquor, the trembling glass in his father's hand. "Dad," he whispered, voice cracking. Nathan's hand froze midair. My heart hammered. The boy had walked straight into the crucible, and the next move would burn us all. Alex's voice cut through the room sharper than any gavel. Nathan froze, the glass trembling inches from his lips. The boy's eyes darted from the broken photo frame on the floor to the bottle clutched in his father's fist, then to me, standing rigid with bloodied fingers. "Dad, what are you doing?" Alex's words wavered, small but devastating. For a moment, Nathan looked like a man suspended between 2 cliffs, nowhere safe to land. His mouth open, but no excuse came. Just ragged breaths, his mask gone, his sins laid bare in the eyes of his son. I stepped forward slowly, placing myself between them, steady and immovable. "Alex," I said, my voice calm though my chest thundered, "you need to understand something. None of this is your fault. Not the anger, not the debts, not the danger." The boy's gaze flicked to me, then back to his father. "Is it true? What Uncle said? About the poison?" Nathan slammed the glass down, liquid splashing across his sleeve. "He's twisting everything," he barked, voice raw. "He wants to take you away from me, Alex. He's always wanted that." "Stop lying," I said, my tone flat, final. "He saw you, Nathan. He saw you pour the vial." Alex's lips trembled. His voice broke. "I did. I told him not to drink it. I thought maybe you'd stop." The boy's confession landed like a hammer blow. Nathan staggered back, eyes wide, fury mingling with shame. "You!" he choked, pointing at his son. "You betrayed me?" "No," Alex whispered, tears streaking his cheeks. "You betrayed us." The words cut him deeper than anything I could have said. Nathan's face crumpled, his bravado collapsing into something jagged and broken. He dropped heavily into a chair, the bottle thudding onto the table. His hands covered his face, fingers digging into his skin as if trying to claw the truth away. I laid a hand on Alex's shoulder, steady as bedrock. "You've been braver than anyone should have to be," I told him softly. "Your mother will be proud." Nathan lowered his hands, eyes bloodshot, staring at me with venom and despair. "You think you've won. You think humiliating me in front of him is enough. This isn't about winning," I said. "It's about ending the cycle before it swallows him too." For the first time, Nathan's voice broke, not in rage, but in something darker. "They'll kill me," he muttered. "The debts, they'll come for me." His shoulders shook. "I don't have anywhere left to run." I looked at him, not with pity, but with the final clarity of a verdict. "Then you should have thought of that before you try to make my coffin your solution." The clock ticked in the silence that followed. Nathan stared at the cognac bottle, his reflection warped in the glass. Alex's breathing was shallow, his hand gripping my sleeve. And then Nathan straightened slowly, a strange calm settling over him. "If you want a show," he whispered. "If you want me ruined, then you'll get it." He seized the bottle again, raising it high above his head, amber liquid sloshing wildly. His eyes locked on mine, manic light burning in them. And before I could move, he roared, "Watch, both of you," and tilted the bottle to his lips. The fate of his final hand was about to be revealed. If you like this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.